Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today on a REVO perspective, we're going to talk about REVO parenting and raising a mixed child. And my ways of REVO parenting is different from probably how your ways are out here in the world. My way is embedded in my brain of a belief system that is change the world, don't be changed by the world, do what's never been done before, and go further than anyone has ever gone. That's the mindset when I deal with anything in this world. Now, my son um, was taken away from his mother, right? So imagine a 4-year-old child with his mother every single day from the moment he was born to one day she's gone. His only source of love and nurturing from a feminine energy has just been taken away. A 4-year-old child, right? So when I introduced Javachi to the world, I came off, as, oh, his mom abandoned him, this, that, and that. I really didn't go too in depth about what happened or whatever like that. Only people that's really close to me understand what actually happened. And I talked like that. And then I started to realize that, hey, she didn't abandon him because he's with me. How can you be abandoned if you're with me? So my mindset begins to change after I get that realization, because in my brain and in my life, I've been conditioned to believe that a mother and father is supposed to raise a child together. And that is the only way that a child can truly grow and develop and to be able to grasp their God-given purpose in order to know what they on this earth to do and actually accomplish it. Excuse me. That was my conditioning. Now, he's mixed. So he has the Dominican side of him, which comes from my father, which is his grandfather, and his grandfather is dead. His grandfather is from Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic. So he has those genes. Obviously, I have them as well. And you could say the black side, which is, you could say black St. Louis, black, I should say. We're going to get into that black comment a little bit later. But my mom is from St. Louis. So she has different genetics in her that spans back from the beginning of the time or whatever that nobody really knows about specifically, right? And then he has a white side of him, which Great Britain, UK, Wessex. And his mom doesn't truly identify with the culture because she was raised amongst black people in that environment. But the ancestry or genes is still inside her, which she passed on to Javachi. See, just because you don't believe that you're a certain culture does not mean that you can't pass that culture or pass those genetic markers to a child. It's like somebody saying, like, I don't want to be Puerto Rican, right? Or I don't identify with being Puerto Rican. And or I don't identify with being Polish, or I don't identify with being um, um, a Spaniard or anything like that. Just because you don't identify with it does not mean those genetic markers don't go through you and go to the child. A child can inherit those genetic cultural markers, even though you may not be able to understand it or even want to deal with the shit. Okay? So what I seen is that when you heal your childhood traumas, which I had to do in order to be able to understand what fatherhood really is, I don't feel like God blessed me with an opportunity to experience fatherhood until I healed my own personal traumas so I could be the best father that I possibly could be. So once I healed that, I started to understand that I could not allow my son to be able to feel or experience the traumas or the bad parenting that happened in my life or in his mom's life. I had to protect him from that in any way that I possibly can. And one thing started in the beginning that me and her had in common is that our fathers left the mother to raise the kid on her own. So now I see how the trauma affected her to the point where she decided something else in this world was more important than continuing to giving her son the proper nourishing and love that he deserves. Same way my father did it. Same way her mother's father did it. So it is just like a whole gene line full of males who've done the same thing on her side of the family. There's a whole gene line of males that done it on my side of the family. Right? It's a lot of them. So when I looked at that, I started to understand that shit, you know what I mean? I'm part Dominican. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how you say it like that. It's just like my father's from Dominican Republic, so I got that, right? So I'm mixed, right? So I was never taught anything about Dominican Republic. Never taught anything about that culture. So I was robbed of a culture because my mother didn't feel like it was necessary. She didn't identify with it. Not saying my mother is a bad person, but she just didn't identify with it. And I didn't have other Dominican people around me to be able to help me understand that culture in order to bring light to the genetics that was inside my body. The same thing happened to his mom. Same thing. It wasn't her grandmother was around initially, and her grandmother passed, which would created another trauma in her. But the thing is, she wasn't around a network or community of other Anglo-Saxons from her heritage and everything like that to be able to teach her the other side of who she is in her culture, because she, you know what I'm saying, had to be able to understand that, but she didn't. So I look at my son, and my whole thing was when you heal your childhood traumas and you get older, you never ever are going to allow somebody to take something from you again. That's precious. You're going to fight for it because you're older. You can fight. When you're a kid, when people took things from you, whether it was your virginity, whether it was your self-respect, whether it was your self-dignity, or whatever it is they took from you, you were too young to understand what that was, and you were robbed. You were a victim. You were robbed. Right? So when you get older and you heal yourself, you are no longer going to be robbed by anybody on this motherfucking planet. It's not going to happen. What you're going to do is you're going to fight and fight and fight to stop people from taking something from you until you are in the cemetery. That's what's going to happen. True, authentic healing is a reflection of that. Now, when I look at Javachi, right, and people say they look at me and they be like, "Oh, you're dark skinned." They don't even know that I'm Dominican. They just look at the fact of my skin color, and then they'll say like, "Oh, he's black," and I'm like, "No, he's mixed. He's British, he's Dominican, and he's black as well." Like, you know, when I say black, I mean like St. Louis culturally black, right? So he has another part of him that is like unknown because I don't know where my mother's lineage really leads to. I know where my father does, right? So they immediately want to erase the British side of it simply because of my skin color, which is fucked up to me. That is probably one of the most racist things you can teach anybody or try to impede on anybody's life or try to teach a child to be able to look at themselves and be like, you know what? I know that your mother is British, but I'm not going to tell you she's British. I'm going to tell you to forget about the British side and focus on the black side. See, my black side that comes from me is like, I don't know where it leads to. Like, you know, I know about the Dominican side, but focus on the other stuff, but don't focus on the white. Just focus on every other culture that's inside you, but forget the white side. That's fucking stupid as fuck to me. Why would I teach my son to eliminate things that's inside his soul for anybody on this motherfucking planet? Who has the right to tell me that? His mother's family don't deal with him for whatever reason. I don't hold no issues with them and none of like that. None of that type of stuff. For whatever reason why they don't want to be around them is whatever reason. All it is just trauma. They just passing down more trauma. The same stuff that happened to them, they try to pass it down to Javachi. And I had to come in and I had to save him in order for him not to feel that trauma. That's what had to happen. You know what I'm saying? So what do I do in that situation? I tell you what I do. I teach him about his culture. It's the same way with black people all the way around the world, right? They always talk this shit, what they say, like, oh, the white man stole my culture. The white man didn't teach us this. The white man burned down those scrolls. I don't know where my people come from. All right. So you want me to do the same thing that the white man did to you, to my own child. I think that's cool. Somebody, those same people, right, are telling other people to embrace your culture. Embrace if you're Igbo or you're Yoruba and you're mixed with Igbo or you're mixed with another tribe. They're not saying like separate. They're not saying like, oh, forget about the Igbo side. They're not saying like, forget about this side. They want you to embrace who you truly, fully are, so you can understand who you truly, fully are as a human being. That's okay for them, right? In that situation. But then when it comes to mixed children, you know, they want the mixed children to forget about the white side of their family, which is fucked up. I don't understand why they will want to pass down their own personal traumas to an innocent child. I'm not doing that shit. Now, when we look at raising mixed children, you can't go by skin color at all. You're an idiot if you do it. You have to go by understanding what that culture was or is, and see if that culture is a part of the behavioral trait inside the child. So when I look at REVO parenting, is this. I don't look at Javachi and say, oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to do that. I give him freedom of expression. I give him independence. I want to see what comes out of his soul and learn it. Because he's his own unique person. He's not the same as anybody on this planet, and I would never teach him that. I will always teach him the only way you're the same as another person is that you're both alive at this moment in time. Other than that, you are different from anybody on this planet, and science can prove that. Biology can prove that. Your behavior can prove that. Every single one of our children in the world, right, is different from another child, with the exception that they're breathing. That's where they share the same, a similarity, the sameness, right there. So when I say stuff to him like, come here, little white dude, come here, little white boy, people around me be like, why are you saying that? Oh my God. Why are you calling him a white boy, man? You're going to affect his brain or whatever. I'm like, how will I affect his brain by telling him what he is? He's British. There's no denying that shit. I know. I don't give a fuck what you people talk. I know this. So how am I affecting his brain by telling him what he is? It's the same way if somebody was Jamaican, right? Say they was Jamaican and Puerto Rican, right? And then the father was like, hey, come here, my little Jamaican dude, what's up with you? Nobody's gonna get mad about that shit. Nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, you said he's Jamaican. No, he is Jamaican. Like one of his parents is from Jamaica or share genetic markers from that country. So why is it wrong for me to be telling him what he is? I want my child to be, and just like everybody else's child is listening to this right now, we want our children to be the best that they possibly can be if you're an excellent parent. You want your children to thrive past you. You want your children to be safe. You want your children to be able to not be hurt in this world. You want your children to be protected by you as much as you possibly can. Your job as a parent until we are in the grave is to make sure that we teach our children the best things that we possibly can. Stay close to them as best as we possibly can without hindering their growth and development now. Without hindering their growth and development. So as much as there are a lot of them make mistakes, we'll be there to be able to like, yo, I got you. Let me help you with that. Let me give you some solution. As much as we can till we're in the grave. That's part of parenting. That's the way I look at that shit. Other people may look at it different. Other people may look at it like it's cool to be able to just leave your kid and go somewhere else and find something else more important. They may feel that way. I feel differently. I refuse to pass down any trauma of mine or any trauma of his mother's or any trauma in society that I know of to my child if I have an opportunity to protect him. He is going to know that I protected him. Now, with him, people be like, oh, he's watching war movies and he's watching violence and shit like that or whatever it may be. I'm like, well, is there violence in the world? Is there war in the world? Is there a certain time frame where we're supposed to be able to teach our kids about certain things? Who made up this time? Who made up these ages? Right? Who made up the age when I could be able to show him a war movie? Who created that age? Somebody who don't know who the fuck he is. That's who created it. So in society, we get our parenting from people who don't even know our children to try to instruct us and tell us what is necessary, or what is going to make our children powerful, and they don't even know our children. They've never been around them before in their life, yet they're giving us advice. How is that possible? How is that logical to be able to believe in what the fuck they're talking about? Because what they're doing is they're basing the teaching on a collective group of kids, when our children are special and unique and different and should be approached and be able to appreciate it and love for their uniqueness and for their differences. And the only way you're going to know that is if you're around the child. I've been around him. And when it comes to war, it's part of his ancestry, right? Now, black people, right? They have no problem with teaching their kids to start war shit. They got their kids out there fighting right now. Like I remember when we was little, right? Kids learn how to fight when they 5, 6 years old. They used to pair them up. Like, go in there and fight him, man. Don't beat your little brother up too much. Go in there and fight. They teach them how to be warriors. Why is it wrong for me to teach my son how to be a warrior? It's because he's mixed? So I have to look at it like, who invented this time when children are supposed to learn certain things in this world? Now, what I did with Javachi when it came to war is I was watching a show one day. I think I was watching what was the Kingdom of God. Like, I was doing some research at the house, right, down at Temp. And he was in there coloring in the other room, right? So then, it's the swords clash with each other and all that type of stuff. So he comes up in a room and he stands right in front of, how kids just stand right in front of your view. I'm on the couch and I'm watching it on the TV, and he stands right there and he's just staring at it. And he turns and he looks at me and he turns around and he faces it and he keeps staring. So I'm trying to tell him, I'm like, hey, move. I'm like, move, man. You know what I'm saying? You don't know nothing about this, right? And he didn't want to move. So then I get up off the couch and everything like that, and I push him to the side, and he's like, like he starts to protest. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, watch it then. At that moment, I was like, watch it. Why are you protesting? Something inside this film right here triggered something in your genes where it made you protest against me as your father to be able to watch it. That's how it started. Now, I don't let him watch war movies, all own stuff that he likes to watch, but it's just an example of certain things, you know what I'm saying, that shows up in his behavior that's similar to the Anglo-Saxons that I've studied after he left. See, what I wanted to do was, I wanted to be, listen, I wanted to be the best fucking father I possibly can be. I didn't want to have no excuses. I didn't want him to see me when I'm in my old age, if I live that long, and be like, Dad, why did you listen? And Dad, why you didn't teach me this? And you knew this and you didn't know none of that shit. No, I'm not dealing with that in my old age. If I live to be that long, live that long on this earth, I'm not dealing with those questions like that. I'm going to deal with the opposite. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me about my culture. Thank you, Dad, for standing up and not abandoning me. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me this. Thank you for being with me through all my mistakes and all that. I want that. That's going to make me live longer. I don't want to go out of this world in some type of regret for some shit that I knew I was supposed to do, but I was a coward and I didn't do it because of what society is telling me what I do, instead of looking at what the fuck I know what I need to do. Because he's my son. Nobody knows him more than me. Nobody has studied him and been around him more than me. Nobody on this fucking planet has dedicated their life and their whole existence to his growth and development but me. Right? My auntie Eloise, tremendous help. Love her to death for everything she contributed. That black queen right there. She's an exception. You know what I'm saying? The Qs, certain ones that come around or whatever like that, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? He cool with some of them. He not that cool with, and I don't allow him to be around that. I want him to be around queen feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I hold it down, just like that. I cannot sit here and there is no book of parenting. There really isn't. There's like basic stuff, and the basic stuff is just don't leave your kid. That's like basic stuff. Leave your kid, stay dedicated, love your kid, all that. Don't put nobody before your children, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And that is really instinctively done. I don't think you taught that. And if you're taught something, and if you exhibit the behavior of something different, it's because you're still dealing with traumas from the past. You're passing down traumas to your own brain, and then you're going to pass it down to your kid. That's the only way. So when I look at REVO parenting and when I look at raising mixed children, is the mixed children are going to be the new race, like to take over shit. If they truly embody the cultures that's inside them and learn it. If somebody has a grandfather that's from Ireland, fucking go to Ireland, man. Learn that shit. Learn that culture. Why not? You gonna listen to motherfuckers in the streets and shit? You gonna listen to motherfuckers who don't understand that culture tell you that you should not learn about something that's inside your own DNA? You really doing that? Fuck that. We ain't doing that over here. I'm never gonna teach my son that shit. And I'm never gonna practice that. Whatever I see that shows up inside the soul, like artwork, for an example, right? He started drawing. One day, just started drawing on his own. So I just fed it, right? I was like, I'm just going to give you some markers. I'm going to give you some crayons and stuff. And he draws all the time. All the time. Every single day. He's like, give me some paper, give me some paper. He'll fight, he'll protest. He'll get to writing on some of my scripts and shit like that I printed out. I'll be like, oh my God, like, get away from that. Like, you can't be doing that. Let me get you some more paper. Like, I need to stack up paper in the war room in order for him to be cool, man. He got markers, and then I had to give him a whole room so he can go ahead and have his independence and be able to draw and do his art. So when you see him on video, be like, art, that's art, that's art. I'm teaching him that. I'm teaching him what's inside his soul because he showed it to me first. It's not like I'm taking something and try to implement it into his soul. All I'm doing is looking what's coming out of his soul, and I'm just feeding it. I'm just feeding it. You want pens? You want to take all my pens and shit like that? Okay, let me get you your own pens, right? You know what I'm saying? You want to take all my pens? Let me get you your own paper and shit like that. You see what I'm saying? Like feeding whatever it is that he's showing me, and that to me is good parenting right there. And I'm not here to say that I'm the best parent in the world or whatever like that. I sure damn fucking every goddamn day trying to be as much as I possibly can and learning as much as I possibly can about something that I co-created. Our children are the greatest things that we can co-create with another human being. Fuck a business. Fuck all that shit. It's the children. It's the children. And a lot of times, man, people in this world, they step over their own children to go and try to love and nurture somebody they barely even fucking know, man. They do it every single day. Our parents did that shit to us. Your parents did that shit to you, probably, who's listening to this right now. The nurturing and love that you were supposed to get as a child, your mother or your father gave it to somebody else. Like the fathers, right? Especially when it came to their daughters or when it came to their sons. The fathers chose the streets a lot of the times. The fathers chose other women a lot of times over their own daughters and sons. I don't feel like there's no one on this earth more important than your child, besides yourself and your relationship to God. Nobody do. Because I'm not here, and women should not be here to fix broken people. We are supposed to stop our children from being broken. How do you think these people got broken and what they're trying to fix right now? That's why I tell the Qs and shit, like you know what I mean, who been around me and shit, right? I'm like, how do you think that happened? How do you think they got broken? Where's the source of it? Somebody created that. So what I'm saying is, let's create a way where they don't be broken. Let's create a way where children don't be broken. I'm not gonna wait till my son gets, do some shit that I know ain't cool. Wait till he get a certain age and then be like, okay, now let me fix you. No, I need to stop you from being broken in the beginning, as much as I possibly can. It's certain things that's gonna be beyond our control as far as raising children, especially mixed children. Like, the bullying and all that type of shit and all that come with it as well and everything. I feel like parents should just have a close relationship with their kids and just walk through the school one day and be like, anybody fuck with my kid, dog, I'm going to do something to your ass. I'm going to have to call your parents. Anybody on this playground, I walk on the motherfucking playground. Anybody on this playground fuck with my son, dude. Any type of way or fashion, I'm talking to your parents and I'm showing up at your house. And all they're going to do is tell me, like, oh, MD, you got to, you can't talk like that. You got to leave or whatever like that. Well, they can't unheard what the fuck I said. Our children needs to know that the parents have their backs, dude. Their parents is willing to go to war for them because our children are willing to go to war for us. We get in trouble, though. I bet you they go out there and want to fight a motherfucker. So why are we not fighting for our kids? And this doesn't fit. This conversation doesn't fit every single person on this earth. There are people out here that fight for their kids every goddamn day, and that's definitely appreciated. But what about the ones that don't? What is more important than your child? What is more important than children? Besides yourself and God and your purpose in life, what's more important? Another human being, a dude, a female? Man, I've seen so many times where dudes out here treat females that they barely even know better than their own children. They got time for the female, but they ain't got time for their baby, man. That's crazy. That shit should change. And the only way it's going to change is we have a different way of parenting. A different way of parenting. We can no longer listen to what other motherfuckers is talking about who don't know who our children are. I'm not listening to that shit. People be talking about all that, like I said earlier, people like, oh, don't call him a white kid. Well, I'm like, what the fuck is you talking about, man? He is British. I don't give a fuck what his mom believed and shit like that. I trace that gene line back to Great Britain. His mom knows how to talk in that British accent. If she wanted to, she could switch it up. She could talk American English and then she could switch it up into a British dialect. Right? Nobody else in her family pretty much can do it. I think as far as like, you know what I'm saying, maybe like one other person and shit like that I know of. And then, like, and people that's further down the gene line and shit, of course they know how to speak it. But just the ones that I was, able to get around. Because there's a lot more family members. Why would I pass a trauma down? Like, I'm supposed to know how to speak Spanish right now. I don't know how to speak it because I never had nobody around me to teach it to me. Right? And I'm sure in my life I've shown behavior of Dominican men some way, somehow. But I just didn't know where it was from. So all I'm saying is that we have to be in tune with our children more and more each day, especially the children are mixed. The mixed children have to understand you are unique. Being unique is more beautiful than being the same as somebody else. Who really wants to be the same? We got to be able to teach the kids that don't be the same as anybody. Now, you don't go out here and disrespect somebody who is the same as everybody else. If everybody over there is wearing, red Nikes or whatever like that, don't disrespect them because they all the same. Just wear your white Pumas. Shine in your white Pumas. If anybody fuck with you about shining your white Pumas, then you disrespect motherfuckers for being the same. Like, all you motherfuckers wearing the same shit. Who wants to go to the club and everybody's wearing the same clothes? You're not going to feel like, what? Come on now. Like, what are we doing? See, it's a lot of hypocritical teachers out here, man, in this world trying to teach people that shit that they don't practice their motherfucking self, which is a problem, man. Which is a problem. That's why back in the day, see the queens in my family are from St. Louis. That's the show me state. So you had to show a motherfucker what you was about. You couldn't just be talking about that shit. You had to show it in your behavior. It ain't just words. It ain't just energy. People can fake energy all goddamn day, man. People can lie with words all goddamn day, man. With energy. A lot of people be like saying like, you know what I mean? Oh, I read energy. I know you don't. You don't read energy correctly. Because if you read energy correctly, you wouldn't have traumas. If you read energy correctly, you wouldn't have things around you that is similar to the original traumas in your brain. If you read energy correctly, you wouldn't have got played by that dude. If you read energy correctly and shit like that, your homegirl wouldn't have did it. You would have been able to prevent a lot of shit from happening if you read energy correctly. You can't read energy correctly and you get bit by the snake. Reading energy correctly means that you never get bit by the snake. You understand what I'm saying? So I understand when people be talking about that, I can read your energy and all that. No, people can pretend. How many times have women been in a relationship with a man and they felt the man loved them? They like, oh, you love me. What do you think energy is? Love is a part of the energy equation, right? They've been around males and shit who they thought loved them and then found out later through his behavior that he didn't love her. Behavior and actions are the key component in that shit. It ain't no energy. It ain't no words. It's behavior and action. If you see a person whose behavior and action is the reflection of being a scumbag, that's what the fuck they are. Regardless of what they say, and regardless of what energy you want them to believe. So look, I'm just gonna leave it at that. For now, we're gonna talk more about this in the future and everything, but just keep that in mind of everything that we had discussed. And try to understand it. We need to have better ways in how we raise our children from this point on. So, later.